Hello and thanks for joining us from our studios in Tel Aviv. Coming up in today's newscast, the United Nations and Israel go head-to-head. Israel tops charts as a world leader in water innovation, and an Israeli startup is offering an unusual substitute for your daily dose of protein. I'm Natasha Kirchak here with the latest news in Israel. The Israeli government is outraged by harsh criticism coming from the UN Secretary General. Ban Ki-moon is condemning Israeli settlement activity and has seemingly implied that the latest wave of Palestinian terror can be justified by Israeli occupation.
Stabbings, vehicle attacks, and shootings by Palestinians targeting Israeli civilians, all of which I condemn, and clashes between Palestinians and Israeli security forces have continued to claim lives. But security measures alone will not stop the violence. They cannot address the profound sense of alienation and despair driving some Palestinians, especially young people. The full force of the law must be brought to bear on all those committing crimes, with a system of justice applied equally for Israelis and Palestinians alike.
The UN Secretary General claims that Israel's settlement activity is undermining chances for a two-state solution.
Continued settlement activities are an affront to the Palestinian people and to the international community. They rightly raise fundamental questions about Israel's commitment to a two-state solution. I am deeply troubled by reports today that the Israeli government has approved plans for over 150 new homes in illegal settlements in the occupied West Bank. This is combined with its announcement last week declaring 370 acres in the West Bank, south of Jericho, and so-called state land. These provocative acts are bound to increase the growth of settler populations, further heighten tensions, and undermine any prospects for a political road ahead.
Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has blasted Ban Ki-moon's comments, claiming that his words bolster terrorism. Netanyahu says the UN has lost its neutrality and moral influence, and the Secretary General is only making it worse.
של מזכ"ל האו"ם נותנים רוח גבית לטרור. אין הצדקה לטרור. נקודה. הרוצחים הפלסטינים לא רוצים לבנות מדינה, הם רוצים להשמיד מדינה, והם אומרים זאת בריש גלי. הם רוצים לרצוח יהודים באשר הם, והם אומרים זאת בריש גלי. הם לא רוצחים למען השלום, והם לא רוצחים למען זכויות אדם. האו"ם מזמן איבד את הניטרליות שלו ואת הכוח המוסרי שלו, והדברים הללו של המזכ"ל לא משפרים את מצבו.
Israel's ambassador to the United Nations has accused the UN of applying a double standard when it comes to Israel.
Not once were the lives of Israelis murdered by terrorists recognized by the Council. No condemnation, no expression of solidarity, not even a statement of concern. The facts don't lie. The Security Council has been hypocritical when it comes to Israel. The road to peace is long and difficult, but Israel is committed to make every effort.
Yet the Palestinian delegate to the United Nations says peace is not feasible if Israel continues to expand its settlements in the West Bank.
We are all aware that the Israeli settlement enterprise, in all its manifestation, is the most formidable obstacle to the peace we seek. Therefore, it has to be removed from its path if we seriously want to open doors for a meaningful process that would lead to the end of occupation, the independence of our state, and saving the two-state solution.
It looks like the Israeli army is preparing for a possible war in northern Gaza. A senior military source says that recent incidents on Israel's borders could potentially ignite the region. The IDF says that a war is unlikely to begin within the next year, since turmoil in the Middle East is keeping most of Israel's enemies busy. Even so, there's a high likelihood that a severe incident along the borders of Gaza could lead to an escalation and possible war. The good news is that the IDF's advanced security capabilities are helping deter threats from the Hezbollah, Hamas, and other jihadist organizations.
Last week, IDF Chief of Staff Gadi Eisenkot singled out Hezbollah as a primary threat to Israel. The army believes that if a war in the north breaks out, it could include missile fire and hostage captures on the border.
Meanwhile, Defense Minister Moshe Yellin has launched a blistering attack on Turkey. Yellin claims that Turkey is funding the Islamic State by buying oil from the terror group.
The defense minister also says that Turkey has allowed the Islamic State to send trained terrorists into Europe, and he's challenged the Turkish government to fight terrorism and stop facilitating ISIS activities.
Now, it's up to Turkey, the Turkish government, the Turkish leadership, to decide whether they want to be part of any kind of cooperation in fighting terrorism. This is not the case so far. As you probably know, Daesh enjoyed Turkish money for oil for a very, very long period of time. I hope it will be ended. Turkey allowed the jihadists to move from Europe to Syria and Iraq and back home as part of the Daesh terror infrastructure in Europe. I hope that it is going to be ended. And Turkey still hosts the Hamas external terror headquarters in Istanbul. If all those phenomena are going to be ended, and Turkey will be ready to rehabilitate the relationship with us.
Efforts to normalize ties between Israel and Turkey have reportedly stalled this month over Turkish demands for Israel to end its military blockade of Gaza.
It's International Holocaust Memorial Day, and the world is coming together to commemorate all of the lives lost. The Israeli Prime Minister met with a group of Holocaust survivors in his office yesterday to mark the special day.
השואה התרחשה כי לא הייתה מדינת ישראל. אם הייתה קמה מדינה יהודית קודם לכן, לא הייתה שואה. הייתה לנו יכולת לפעול נגד אלה שבאים לחלות את עמנו. ואני חושב שהדבר הנורא הוא ש70 שנה אחרי השואה, עדיין יש אלה שקמים לנסות לחלות אותנו. אבל ההבדל הוא שכיוון שיש לנו מדינה, ויש לנו ממשלה, ויש לנו צבא.
צבא טובה.
צבא טובה.
הכי טובה.
זה נכון.
בעולם.
זה נכון. אבל אנחנו יודעים שיש לנו משימה אחת, למנוע שואה נוספת, ואת זה אנחנו עושים.
Israel typically marks its own Holocaust Day, and this year the country will be memorializing the tragic historical event in May. The Prime Minister still took the time to address the international commemoration by releasing a message in his office. The Israeli leader warned that Europe is not doing enough to combat anti-Semitism in the face of the growing threat of terrorism.
Dear friends, preserving the memory of the Holocaust is more important today than ever. For in this period of resurgent and sometimes violent anti-Semitism, it is commemorations like this that remind us all where the oldest and most enduring hatred can lead. Unfortunately, in Europe and elsewhere, Jews are once again being targeted just for being Jews. Around the world, Jewish communities are increasingly living in fear. We see anti-Semitism directed against individual Jews, and we also see this hatred directed against the collective Jew, against the Jewish state. When a state like Iran and movements like Daesh and Hamas openly declare their goal of committing another Holocaust, we will not let it happen. But Europe and the rest of the world must stand up together with us, not for our sake, for theirs.
You may remember swallowing a bug as a child and having your parents tell you it was protein. It turns out their comforting words were scientifically correct, and one Israeli startup has set out to prove it. Ran Gronich is the CEO of Flying Spark, and he joins us with more. Thanks for coming in.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So what is Flying Spark?
Flying Spark is a startup company that produces protein powders out of fruit fly larvae for human consumption.
Out of fruit fly, so out of bugs, essentially.
Yeah, it's a kind of a bug. It's the larva of the fruit fly, and it's very, very rich in protein, calcium, magnesium. You can see it here, if you want to see it.
Wow. Do I reach over?
Yeah.
Okay, so these are actual bugs, and I understand that this product is actually very environmentally friendly.
Yes, very, very sustainable, hardly using any water or land in the process of growing it. And there's no greenhouse gases pollution at all, and no waste, almost no waste, because we're using 100% of the animal. And another amazing thing in this animal, that its lifespan, it's only 6 days, and it multiplies its body mass 15 times.
So I'm holding fruit fly larva in my hand,
yes,
and I can tell you guys it is not as gross as you might think it is from there, but I can actually eat this.
Yes, you can eat it, yeah.
So I'm going to have to try it, but I'll try that when you show us what some of the other products you guys have are here. What else do you manufacture aside from protein powders?
Okay, so our product is this protein powder, 65% protein, and very, very rich oil that we are extracting out of the larva. And we have a lot of applications that we just producing to show that basically you can do anything out of this. If it's dry product like cookies, pasta, bread, cereals, etc., and burgers or milk that anyone can drink, people that can't drink milk or don't want to drink milk. And this is 100% meat burger without killing any cow and without polluting the environment.
So it's a meat burger made out of fruit flies.
Yes, exactly.
So that's really interesting. And so you said that I could try one of these cookies, and I actually really want to try one because they look really good,
Yeah,
but
go ahead.
it's going to be
Bon
interesting.
appetit.
Why? Okay, and so tell me what the ingredients are in this cookie.
It's a regular cookie. It's Karin Goren's recipe, and we change a third of the flour with our larva flour.
It tastes like a regular cookie, to be honest. It doesn't taste any different.
Yes. Because the powder is tasteless.
So I would absolutely never know unless you told me that.
Yeah, so you can incorporate it in any kind of food product, and this is our product. Basically, we will sell it to food manufacturers, and they will use it as the protein powder instead of all kinds of other protein powder that is being used today.
Interesting. And I'm going to actually try the fly larva so I can tell you guys if it actually tastes bad or good.
Yeah, and don't worry, you stay alive. Yeah.
And it actually really doesn't have a strong taste at all.
Yeah.
I'm alive.
Yeah.
So
much healthier.
And much healthier, exactly. Yeah. So this is an Israeli innovation.
Yes.
What inspired you guys to come up with this idea?
So I'm a serial entrepreneur. I founded several startups. And about a year and a half ago, I saw a TED Talk of this guy that was talking about the upcoming food crisis in 2040, that 9 billion people will need to be fed. And also the UN is forecasting a severe food crisis with a specific shortage in animal protein. And as you know, animal protein is one of the major causes for greenhouse gases pollution. Animal farming is using huge amount of water and land and causes a lot of waste. Oceans are being overfished. And on top of that, all kinds of animal protein as we can consume it today are full with hormones, antibiotics, and pesticides. So he said, this guy on TED, he said that we have to shift into insect consumption as a solution. So I was fascinated, started to learn the subject, and when I understand that I don't know anything about insects, I found my partner. He's an entomologist, and we founded Flying Spark. And Dr. Yoram Yerushalmi, my partner, he chose this specific animal, and as far as we know, we are the only company in the world that is extracting protein out of the fruit fly.
So tell us about that. How did you come up with the idea to choose this specific fruit fly? Who tasted it first? Who knew that this would be something that you could use? Okay.
So according to my partner, the scientist of the company, this is the only insect that you can grow in mass production. Okay, in really large quantities. We have partners that are already growing flies for pest management, so there is a proof of concept that you can grow it in tens and hundreds of tons. And we made all kinds of experiment, research and development, and came out with this, and we proved that we can do anything out of it.
And so, go ahead.
By the way, there are 2 billion people around the world that are eating insects on a regular basis. Okay, there are almost 2,000 species of insect that you can eat. And about 6 months ago, we were selected to participate in a very big accelerator program in Boston. and we went for a few months to the US, and we were very surprised from the level of acceptance for our product.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because this might be new in Israel and it might be new in the United States, but people do eat bugs. And
yes.
And so
yes.
Where does Flying Spark stand right now? Where is your product available?
Okay, so now we are just in the middle of raising funds, okay, to build our first production line and labs. And the R&D and production will be in Israel. Our market is not in Israel. Our first market is in the US. And in about less than a year, our product will be available in the market.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to try all of your different products once they come out, and everybody else should as well. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
It looks like Israel ranks in the top 50 when it comes to the environment, marking a drastic improvement in the past 5 years.
The Holy Land was ranked 49 out of 180 countries for its environmental performance, moving up from 66th place in 2010. According to Yale University's Biennial Environmental Performance Index, Israel came at an impressive 4th place for access to high-quality water, which is no small feat for a desert nation. But it looks like the tiny country needs to work on air pollution, because it was ranked 136 for its air quality. The good news is that most of the polluting air particles are natural, so Israel's low results in this category are a little misleading. The 4 highest-ranking countries in the index are all Scandinavian.
An Israeli high-tech company has made the magical phrase abracadabra a reality with its groundbreaking new instrument. ILTV reporter Denise Wood has more on the story.
The Israeli company Tribal Tools is making waves in the music world with its new Kadabra instrument. The special tool allows musicians to play up to 16 instruments at the same time, and it was just spotlighted at a California Music Tech Expo. It's controlled by movements instead of buttons, letting the player change sounds by turning or making sharp gestures. The use of movement really makes the instrument look magical, since the player has full control of the music without having to touch any buttons.
The idea with our founder and CEO was to really change the game a little bit. Instead of controlling sound with turning a knob or a fader, really to move with it and give the audience something they can see and feel.
And now for our Hebrew word of the day. Here at ILTV, we're super proud of all the environmentally friendly innovations coming from Israel, which brings us to today's word, sviva. Sviva is the environment in Hebrew. The root of the word is saviv, which means around, and sviva can literally be understood as our surroundings. If you didn't already notice, sviva sounds a lot like the word sevivon, the spinning top we like to play with on Hanukkah. And the connection makes a lot of sense since our Earth is spinning. Israelis have really learned how to use the Earth around them to build a sustainable future. And here in Israel, we like to say we have to deal with the environment today for the sake of the next generation. So remember to appreciate the sviva and do your part. If there's a Hebrew word you'd like to learn, simply like our page on Facebook and suggest your word in the comments. If your word is chosen, I'll mention your name on air. Let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. Tomorrow is expected to be partly cloudy with a high of 56. The weather will stay more or less the same into Friday, but the temperature should warm up to 60 degrees. All right, everybody, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.97 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at ILTV.tv, and don't forget to check out our evening update every night at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tonight.